Welcome back to the Make Life Work podcast with me, Cy Jobling. On this podcast, we talk to people from around tech about how they find a balance between work, life, and any side projects to share the stories, challenges, and life hacks so others can learn themselves. This time around, I've joined forces with two previous guests of the podcast, Sam Hardacre and Mike Street, to ask each other questions about our side projects and invite along other members of our On the Side Slack community to share their stories as well. This week, we're joined by another On the Side regular, Juan Fernandes, a freelance front-end developer from the UK. Let's get into it and do the intros. Sam.
Yeah, hi, my name's Sam Hardacre. I'm a designer from Leeds.
I'm Mike Street. I'm a lead developer and CTO for a small Brighton-based web agency, Liquid Light.
Hi everyone, I'm Juan. I'm a freelance front-end developer based in Suffolk, UK.
And I'm Cy Jobling, a delivery lead, as it's known, for a large fintech company. Good to see you all, guys. How are we?
Bonjour.
Good.
Yeah.
All good.
Good to see you all.
Welcome along, Juan. Good to see you on the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And I think we'll get into things in a little bit. But first things first, how's everyone feeling after the roadmap starting with lockdown and all that sort of stuff?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, yesterday was quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of it's chilled out now.
Child-free zones.
Yeah.
It definitely helps. And I think Mike will find out about this soon enough.
Yeah, nothing's changed for me so far this week, except that I'm now thinking of meeting up with people, but I kind of want to avoid people with the sort of impending child. I don't want to risk catching anything and then not being able to sort of be there to support my wife. So I'm kind of going to self-isolate for the next couple of months to make sure I don't impact that, which is a shame, which is, typical. It just starts to all ease, and I have to stay in, but it's, it'll be worth it.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
When's the due date without giving too much detail away? Are we...
Mid-April. So yeah, a few weeks.
Ooh. So you've got
getting close.
One more month of freedom by the sound of it.
Yeah, it's got a bit more real now that it's next month, So.
Yeah. And is everyone ready in the house? Nurseries and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, as ready as you can be.
Good stuff. And work ready? You ready to let go of that for a bit?
Oh yeah, can't wait.
Not to put any sort of added pressure or anything like that, but our eldest kicked himself free a month early, so you might not even have a
wonderful. Yeah.
That's never going to come to that.
I'm going to tread lightly, not to.
Totally. But at least you've got your nice office space if you need to break away, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's a work emergency. I need to put down to the office. I'm sure that'll.
Got a podcast to record, love. Back in a moment. Right, good. Shall we do some... The first question of the week is always, what have you learned in the past week?
I can go first. I've got something. So, as I mentioned last week, I'm sort of thinking of converting my personal blog to 11T, which Juan, did you do recently, or did I make that up?
No, I did it a little while ago now, but I'm still tinkering with it, still playing around with my website. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you found did you convert pretty much like for like from a previous platform to 11T?
I did, yeah. So the first. I had PHP. It was a PHP-based site, and I converted everything to just static HTML, and then went through slowly just converting it to 11T.
Right. So yeah, I'm going from a CMS-powered website, Craft CMS, to 11T, and it's one of those things in your mind. You're just like, I've done all the CSS and HTML. I'll just drop it across. But it's that. You always forget about the niggly bits of how template languages work, and like if statements are slightly different and functionalities might not be the same. So that's what I've kind of been battling through, is that if you go from a simple platform to a simple platform, it's not a simple process because their simplicities are completely different. So from Craft to 11T, there's a lot of things which I'm having to rewrite, which is obviously taking up more time than
you planned.
Yes. So that's my learning. Going from simple to simple is not simple.
Oh, very nice. That's your new t-shirt design.
I actually went from a simple CMS as well, Perch CMS, to 11T.
Right.
And there's still bits on my site that I haven't really converted over to Nunjux, which is the templating language I'm using. So but I need to redesign my website as well. So I thought, how much do I want to do now, and then is it going to get redone? So I did literally just the minimum viable to get it live, and moved over, and then just been tinkering away with it.
Sam, what have you been learning this week?
I've just been trying to wrap my brains for any sort of learning that I could possibly have come up with in the last week. Because anyone who's been listening to the series will know that I'm just elbow deep in colouring comic pages, and at the minute I've got my process down for now, so it's literally just colouring in and putting some shading on and things like that. So I guess one thing I've learned is, I suppose, just to break away for a little bit. So on Thursday, I think it was, or sometime last week, at the end of the day, I just decided to open up Photoshop and do some scribbling. So I scanned in some pencil doodles that I'd done earlier that day, and then just inked them up and coloured them, and it was quite a nice little cathartic process. And yeah, people seem to like it. I did a bit of fan art from. I watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou last week, and a couple of the characters have just got, well, not even characters, the actors, they've got quite characterful faces. And I was like, those look really fun to draw, so I'll have a go. So yeah, it's a bit of a rubbish lesson this week, I've got to be honest. But
for those that haven't seen it, what is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
So it's a Coen Brothers film starring George Clooney,
Right.
And it's about three prisoners who break out of prison, and George Clooney's character has kind of coaxed the other two into coming with him in search of some treasure of some kind, and on their way they record a song to get some money to allow them to continue their trip across the country. And then, unbeknownst to them, this song becomes a hit in the state. I think it's in Mississippi or someplace like that. And I don't really want to give much away. It's a very good film, but it all comes round to that song being stupidly popular without them even realizing it, and it's brilliant. It's such a good film.
What streaming service did you find it on, or is it something that do you own the DVD?
No, it was on Netflix.
On Netflix. All right.
No,
I'll put it on
it is on
list.
Netflix. Yeah, so it's a good one.
Noted. In the show notes, we'll whack it in there. Juan, have you got anything that you want to share from your learnings this week?
Well, I've been wrapping up a project, so but just finishing off continuing to learn Tailwind CSS and also Alpine JS, so just adding 2 more skills to my list of skill sets. But yeah, just also trying to get my head around going back to sort of permanent work, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more. So yeah, the freelance lifestyle and changing back to having a 9 to 5, it's gonna start getting used to that.
That will be a culture shock. Yeah, we can go into that a bit more probably in one of the questions.
What about you, Si?
Again, thank you, Juan, for asking. I always leave a break for everyone else to do that. What have I learnt? There was 2 things I learnt this week, actually. One is don't use cloud-based Zoom recordings when you're trying to record a podcast. I failed to make that. I made that mistake last week, and we only had a single audio track to produce, which made things a little bit more complicated. And the quality, I think you could tell.
You did a pretty good job, though. You couldn't really tell. You managed to cut out all of my ramblings and swearings. So, yeah, good job.
Which is a job in itself. And coming from another audio producer, that's a great testament to take, actually. I'll take that one. Thanks. So, yeah, we managed to make it work. And this week, actually, we're trying something completely different called Zencastr. So hopefully things will work, but we'll see, right? It'll all come out in the wash at the end. The other thing I did learn, actually, was you should never go for a 10K run from doing nothing for a month. I learned the hard way, and it's all part of this fundraising I was trying to do. But within a day or so, I noticed my toes were really hurting and clicking on every step.
Ooh.
My knees were creaking.
Isn't that just old age?
Potentially. But again, I've been able to do this for a while. Not like 10K, but I've been doing like 5, 6K without too much problems. So I've booked into the local podiatrist to get a full assessment tomorrow. Fingers crossed there's nothing too serious, but we'll see. I've always been known to have like flat feet as well. My wife has always said, you need to get that seen to, and fobbed it off, whatever. Maybe it's time to have a reality check and make sure I look after myself.
Excellent.
So yeah, lessons learned is don't run 10K from nothing. I think many people will probably just go, obviously.
Noted.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
Noted.
no-brainer, isn't it?
It should be, but stupid me, no, not necessarily.
Cool. So should we move on to the next question?
Let's do it.
So the question we've got this week is, what is it about a project that drives you to work on it? Is it financial, motivation, career progression, etc.? Mike, do you want to go first?
Oh, I liked the while you randomly picked one of us.
We did like a roulette wheel.
I mean, I'm going to sound a bit like a broken record because we kind of, I kind of touched on this last week in the fact that it's, what did I call it? Selfish problem solving. So it's kind of, the thing that most projects I work on is because I just want to solve a problem for myself. But kind of reading this question, there is that sort of note about career progression. And I do often use my side projects to experiment with like technologies or tech stacks or processes or anything like that I've not got either the capacity or the time to work on at work, but they do then often feed back into my work and stuff like that. So we're going to potentially look at using 11T for our documentation and stuff like that now that I've used it a couple of times for side projects. And I'm trying to think of sort of other times, like as one of my side projects, I upgraded my network hardware at home with commercial level networking gear because I'm a massive nerd. And that actually fed into work in the fact that I used it at home, realized how powerful and great and stable it was. And we actually bought the same networking gear at work. So I tend to use my side projects for just general problem solving. There's no financial motivation whatsoever, mainly because I never get the traction, nor, as I've mentioned before, if people are paying, they expect a certain level of service or a certain level of stability within your project. Whereas if you just sort of say, I'm doing this for free, have a play, and it breaks, then people don't necessarily hate on you for it. Although, some of the comments you see on open source projects on GitHub, let's just not go down that way. So selfish problem solving plus a little bit of Wild West in terms of processes and tech stacks and stuff.
It's interesting that you say that, though, because I think a lot of us kind of see it as an opportunity to build our personal profile a little bit as well. So it's not just about, commercial reasons or, professional reasons. It's just actually I want to grow myself in other ways. I'm probably going into my territory now, but the way I look at why I do side projects and what motivates me, it's just the general kick and the satisfaction of doing something. I don't, in your day job, sometimes you feel like you just slogging away, nothing really comes out of the day, nothing comes out of the week, maybe even a month goes by and you're like, for God's sake, I just want to get something out there, So for me, it's an opportunity to do something and get it out there in a really timely manner. I think the podcast that we're doing like this is a great opportunity to go, once a week, something's going to come out of this and hopefully someone likes it. And that's what it comes down to for me. It's not like purely for my own satisfaction, it's that someone else benefits from it as well. Thinking back through all the side projects I've done over the years, I mean, I've been doing them for God knows how long, probably 20 odd years now. I don't think I've ever made money out of any of them. And I rarely, even when there's a cost to it, I don't even break even, let alone, it's just, there's no money involved. Occasionally you have this, we've talked about this, you have an idea going, this could be a goer. This could be a commercial product. We talked about the calendar thing for grassroots stuff. That's not a money maker, but it could potentially turn into something like a low-cost subscription model. But for me, it's just like the satisfaction of going, I made something, someone else liked it or used it, winning.
It kind of reminds me of when I was in secondary school, I got signed up to this like mentor program where someone from the local university would come in and sort of talk to me and a couple of classmates, just generally like mentoring us. So it's a sort of an older figure to talk to that it wasn't a teacher or your parent kind of thing. And there's something she said, she was doing psychology degree and we were doing like media studies. We were sort of talking to her about media studies and stuff. And something she said has always stuck to me, and it's like she said, you get like two types of sort of degrees and two types of work, in the fact that you get like the problem solution factual ones, and then you get the airy fairy ones. So if you think of like back in secondary school, if you did maths GCSE, there's a question and there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, and if you get the right answer, you get that little sort of tingle of satisfaction. Whereas with like even with English, you write an essay, but it's not right or wrong. It's like it's just really it's not very. Yes, you might finish it and you get that sort of tingle of satisfaction when you finish it, but there's no like done, is there? It's like it's a bit like a website
binary.
in the fact that it's never finished. And so I suppose like that does apply to work as well, doesn't it? And side projects give you that opportunity to get that little tingle of completion on like something that's got a quick turnaround, like this podcast. You know, we record on a Tuesday, it gets released the following Monday, boom, done. There's nothing else you can do to it. Like, Si, you're restricted with your editing. It's like there's a deadline, and I doubt you have any projects at work that start on a Tuesday and finish the following Monday, bish bash bosh, job done. So there's probably also that for you in the fact that with your type of work that you don't really get those kind of job done, finished, move on. It's kind of your work's a bit more airy fairy, if you excuse the term.
In a way, it is, right? I mean, a lot of the work I do is kind of setting the ground, the frameworks in place to get improvements in place, right? So, we can talk about agile ways of working all the time if we want to, but the fact that you constantly building, delivering on a regular basis, whether weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever, with the kind of stuff I do, it's literally just setting some foundations in place and then help the teams to be more aware of improvements. There's never, and you'll have like milestones and, significant points where you can ship something or get the reward from it, but it's never done. And the idea that a product you make is complete is bollocks to me. It's just like, no, you've got something out. You've got a new thing out. Build on it. And this is the joy of our side project, is that you can do that. With the podcast, I went over a year or so ago, I went, well, this might be something in it. I'll give it a go. 5 seasons on. And we're like, yep, no, we've got something here. I don't know what it is. And it's still kind of evolving over time, but we're trying different things all the time. And we've got the luxury of having that freedom to go, I want to try something different now. And we can try a different tech stack. We can try a different format. We can try a different model, whatever. That's another thing for me. Just I get to see something, try it without any limitations and just see what it does. So that's me. Sam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So for me, there's a bit of a mixture of sort of reasons behind why I do what I do. Originally, when I first started working on this comic, it was a way for me to get away from the computer, because I was working traditionally with pen and ink and paper and things like that. So it was a chance for me in an evening to sort of put all my devices down, put some headphones on, put some music on, and just sit and work on a page. And it was just a nice break. You're not staring at a screen or anything like that. I've since taken a step into digital work, so I'm now back to working on a screen. So I've kind of had to adjust my thinking really about how I think about being on a device, and it boils down to the purpose of why I'm there. So if I'm just sat mindlessly scrolling through Twitter or something like that, that's not a particularly productive use of time. Whereas if I'm on Photoshop and I'm working on a page, I'm finding that I'm not getting distracted very often. So I don't really have the urge to flip over to a different browser and have a look at what's going on Twitter and things like that. I'm very focused on what I'm doing. So it's kind of, in terms of focusing productivity, it's very much the same as it was when I was working on paper. But like I said, it's just slight adjustment in how I think about the methods that I'm using, because I was really sort of hesitant to move over to digital for that reason, or at least partly for that reason, because I didn't want to get drawn into the sort of the urge to go and check Twitter and just, let's go see what's going on there for 5 minutes, and then suddenly half an hour has disappeared. And I suppose there are some other elements of it. I don't think it's ever going to be a career change for me, to be honest. unless you happen to make it big time in comics, you're not going to make a decent living doing it. And I've kind of resigned myself to that fact, and that's perfectly fine. I have had some projects in the past where I have had some, financial benefits out of it. I did a project a few years ago with a gallery in New York, and I earned a few grand off that. And that was just doing some commission work basically. So there's money to be made in commissions, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of grinding to get it done. And one of the reasons why I don't do commission work anymore, or at the minute at least, is sometimes you get asked to do stuff which is really good, and you kind of go, right, that's lit a fire, and I'm going to go and do that, and it's the end piece, you're really happy with it, and then sometimes you get given a request and you go, really, that's what you want. One of the things that came into mind off this gallery project was someone asked for a mashup between is it Rutger Hauer, the actor who was in Blade Runner. So he was in a film called Hobo with a Shotgun or something like that. And this request was, I want the head of Rutger Hauer on the body of Saul Guerrero from Rogue One. And I read that and I was like, what? So I went back to the gallery and I just said, look, I'm not doing this. We need to find an alternative. And they came back with an alternative suggestion for that particular customer. But that's an example of, if someone's paid you some money and they say, I want this, you kind of have to do it regardless. And there are those occasions where you go, I really don't want to do this, let alone put my name on it. So that's me. What about you, Juan?
I think for me, it's definitely there's definitely financial motivation, but also career progression. Having been a freelancer / contractor, I spend a lot of time, sort of just jumping in on a project. Most of the time the technology has already been picked for me. I don't get a choice, so it's just a case of getting in, doing that project. But then I use side projects, just to keep my mind, my brain working, ticking, learning new skills. And by learning new things, new skills, then that sort of opens up new opportunities for contract work. So yeah, for me, it's a bit of all of that, financial and career progression. And like with my website, I've sort of been working on it. I sort of, like we said earlier, converted it to 11T, just spent some time working on it, and then rather than just completely starting from fresh, I've been sort of adding to it and working on it, and I've treated it like a project where I've got issues, and I've sort of been adding to it and just picking one, fixing it whenever I got time.
So for you, actually, because you're freelance, you've got a different motive anyway, right? Because one, you haven't got the stability of a full-time job anyway.
Yeah.
But two, how the hell do you learn when you're just taking on projects?
Exactly, yeah.
To then go, well, actually, now I know 11T, this might work better for this project, or I can even go out on tender for projects that are specifically for 11T.
Yeah.
Or the CSS framework you're learning.
Exactly, yeah. Being a contractor or freelancer, there's always like a new framework. Like everyone's talking about Tailwind. I don't particularly like the approach of Tailwind, but that's probably not a discussion for this podcast. But again, I've learned it. The client wanted it because he liked it, and I thought, you know what? I don't know it. I'm gonna just dive in and learn it for this project, and it's something else that I can add to my CV, and if another project comes up that requires it, then I can go for it. So yeah, constantly learning.
I've been in bad situations where the clients sort of led with what system they're going to run with before. In a previous job, we had to build something on Magento, and if you've never built on Magento before, and you get suddenly thrust into a full e-commerce build, it is not fun.
Yeah, I've heard about that. About Magento. Yeah, it's not. But it wasn't like the client was sort of forceful in his opinion. He mentioned it, and I thought, do you know what? I've been looking at it, so yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And so it's constantly learning.
Yeah, constantly learning. So I think the general rule across all of us is just to learn new stuff, and then we can maybe apply it to our profession. But then with Sam, I love how you say, I'm colouring in. So going back to your childhood ways, going, I've drawn it, I'm colouring it, and I'm done. I'm out. I love it. I wish all projects were that simple.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Have we got any other thoughts on this topic, or shall we move on to the next question?
I feel like we should move on.
Yeah.
Do we need your segue, Mike?
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Thank you.
So it kind of leads on from the previous question in terms of like side projects and what you choose to do with it and how you plan to do those things with it. So how do you plan and prioritize your workload for side projects specifically? Obviously, feel free to segue into your planning and prioritization at work, but as this is an on-the-side takeover, I feel like we should be talking about side projects specifically. I'm going to go to you first, Si.
Oh, what? Because I'm a delivery lead and I plan everything, right? It's the nature of the job. Well, actually, I think that there's an element of that influences how I do this, because it is my daytime job. It's all about planning, prioritizing, going through that stuff with the teams. I do pick up little tricks along the way that go, that will be useful for a side project. So, I mean, again, I don't want to go into the whole agile mindset, which I'm sure many of our listeners are already familiar with or can't be arsed with. But the idea that you kind of take up an idea, break it down, think about an MVP, and then just literally write these things down. That's the first step for me. Now, I'm not generally a slave to the tools, but I think anyone who's used Jira, for example, knows how cumbersome and complex and unuseful it can be.
Has anyone ever used Jira and gone, do you know what? I bloody love Jira.
I doubt it.
You know what? Actually, I've been using a proprietary tool in my current job, which is absolutely awful, to the point where a lot of people are going, I miss Jira. And everyone was like, really? What? No way. Like, yeah, it's so bad. We miss Jira.
Wow. So no one actually likes Jira. They just prefer it to things that are worse.
Pretty much. It's the worst of many evils, I guess.
The tech guys, I know we're trying to talk about on the side stuff, but the tech guys at work, they prefer Jira, or at least they've settled on Jira because of the way it integrates with lots of different systems. So we use Bitbucket for all our code repositories, and it just syncs up with all that kind of stuff, and it does all sorts of crazy stuff. So we've got like sprint boards that automatically sync with the status of, if you've got a pull request in place, it'll automatically move it into the right column and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's very clever once you've set it up. But the guy I work with who was in the process setting it up, it seemed to take him a long time to get it right, and that's not a diss on him. That's more a comment on how complex this system could be. Whereas for me personally, I was really sort of like, can we not just use like Todoist or something, just like a simple to-do list? But hey ho.
It's a good tangent that we might have to save for another episode. But I'm glad we're all on the same page with Jira. But what I was going to say was, what I generally do is either use something like Trello or even TickTick, just to kind of literally get a brain dump down of what I want to do for this side project. It could be like a single task. It might just be like, I want to create an if this and that recipe to synchronize that with that. That's a little side project for me, and I might have to step back and go, well, actually, to do that, I need an email address or I need a service. So I'll generally jump into TickTick first, and then I might go and use Trello, another Atlassian tool that's I'm sure many of us are familiar with. But it's another opportunity to go, well, actually, I'm going to collaborate with someone. Most people have a Trello account, so I should be able to just invite them to a Trello board. We can map down our thoughts, do the tracking and stuff. We don't need to go to the detail like Jira can with all the complicated workflows to synchronize with Bitbuckets and build pipelines and feeding in all the requirements from customer email complaints. Don't need any of that. It's a side project. It's fun. I want to enjoy this. But if I've got something I can use from all those other big babies, then I will just go, copy, done. I know how to do this now.
Sam, you've got like a comic book to finish, so surely you've got a really rigid plan with your own Jira tickets and workflows that, what do you use?
Yeah, I mean, setting up Jira to work on a comic book, that sounds like a really good use of time. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's fairly straightforward in the sense that making a comic book is quite a linear process when you break it down, or if you look at it from like a macro level, So my process, I've been trying to evolve it over the course of the last year or two as I've been working on this book, and I think I've got it down to a good kind of streamlined flow now. But like I say, one thing follows on from the next. So, you can't really start working on rough pages or anything until you've got a script. And once you've done the rough pages, then you can move on to the inking. And then once you've done the inking, you can move on to the colouring. I suppose you could do the lettering at any stage once you've got some rough pages. I know some people who do the lettering before they do the inking, just so that they know exactly where the word balloons are going to be and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's how I kind of prioritize things at the minute. I'm trying to do things one step at a time. So I'm deliberately focused on the colouring phase right now. And then once I've finished that, which hopefully will be this week, I can then move on to lettering. Whereas someone who's a bit more experienced might sort of jump around a little bit. So they might finish colouring a page and then letter it up before they consider the whole thing finished.
Sam, when you're doing this, I'm going back to the how do you get an MVP out and user feedback. Is there an opportunity when you're doing it like in that way where you can get some actual feedback from your end users or your customers, as it were?
Yeah. So what I've done with this book is, as I mentioned on a previous podcast, when I was talking to a publisher, we worked quite a lot last year on writing the whole story arc rather than just focusing on issue 1, which is what I'm focusing on right now. So I've got a full end-to-end story, and I roughed it all out. So I've got about 100 pages altogether, where I've got really rough scribbles with dialogue and everything, so you can read it as a full comic book. So as I've been doing that, as I've been going through the process of working on I broke them up into chapters, which are effectively issues now. So I'd finish one chapter and I send that off to my publisher to get the editor's feedback. But I'd also fire it around to some friends as well. Just say, what do you guys think of this? It's really rough, so I don't want comments about how messy it is. All I want to know is, does the flow work? Does it make sense? Can you sort of understand what's going on and all that kind of stuff? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you did it actually, because I know there's an opportunity to go, right, I've done a page. Let's see if anyone what they think of it. But would you like to do that, or would you rather go, no, I want to finish this chapter, this issue, or however first?
Yeah, I think if I'd probably break it down to scenes. So one page out of context probably wouldn't be that helpful for somebody. But if they could read a full scene, and maybe understand how what's happened before and what's going to follow, even on a broad outline, that might be useful. Yeah. But
do you get the feedback and then do something with it, or just go and go, thanks, noted for next time?
Oh yeah, for certain. Like if there's not much point doing it if I just ignore it. Thankfully I've not had that much of a problem, like even when working with an editor, whose job it is to make sure that it's all really, really as good as it can be. The feedback's never been so bad that I've had to redo lots of stuff. I've had to maybe redraw a page or two where the layout doesn't quite work, or the publisher or the editors kind of said, this page is okay, but I think if you push yourself a bit further, just to explore some more ideas, you can make the page really 10 times better. So I've not had any major revisions in that sense really, which is quite fortunate because you don't really want to do that if you've done all the writing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have also gone through the phase of sending the script off as well. So if you kind of like how you would do with a regular project at work, you do you write a script, send that off, get the dialogue and the story kind of signed off loosely, and then you can work on rough pages. So when you're doing the rough pages, you don't really have to worry about what's being said necessarily in the script. You can just worry about, get these compositions working. And yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling again.
No, it's all good stuff. Juan, do you have an approach to planning and prioritizing?
Yeah, for me, it's using a bullet journal. It's just
nice.
I've tried. I really like Trello, and I've used Trello in sort of jobs, but digital just doesn't work for me. It always goes back to pen and paper, and so since I adopted the bullet journal methodology, it's worked wonders for me. I can't see. I recently tried Basecamp because they released a free plan. it's for like sort of non-techie projects, like I don't know, sort of DIY projects where my wife needs to be involved. It kind of worked okay, but again, it's just digital, and I like to focus on the task and not whether to get the technology working and stuff like that, and teaching someone how to use it. Like you were saying earlier, lots of people already have a Trello account, but not necessarily Basecamp, and then it's just easier with pen and paper. For me, most of the time I'm working by myself on side projects anyway, so pen and paper kind of works for me. And when I am using a tool like Trello or Basecamp, I am still copying the tasks that I need to work on onto my bullet journal, and then I prioritize them using that methodology. So
yeah, I used to do bullet journaling, or at least the sort of the main task management kind of aspect of it. I know I never went as far as doing the whole calendar thing that they suggest you do.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But I had that same problem, so I was constantly getting tasks on Todoist, which is how some of us at work manage our tasks, copying them down on paper, and then just doubling up my work essentially. So I've decided, right, I'm just going to do away with the bullet journal as much as I like it, and there's that sort of satisfaction of having a physical list that you can scribble on, or you can tick off and things like that. There's that sort of aspect of it when you finish a task that's a lot more satisfying than just clicking a checkbox.
Definitely. I find it's for me, again, using bullet journal, it's a lot easier to keep track of the stuff that I haven't done as well, because you just move it to the next day. And obviously, if you look into bullet journaling, there's like symbols that you can sort of mark your tasks as. And I've also modified it slightly, so I use like an exclamation mark to denote a more important task that I need to work on. So I tend to keep it to 3 most important tasks that I need to complete that day, whereas everything else is just a normal task. And also things like sort of just to remind myself that I've got a meeting, because I might not have my phone on me, so I won't get the calendar notification. But I've always got my bullet journal with me.
Nice.
So yeah, that kind of works for me.
You're the kind of guy who's always got a notepad with you then, so you can make notes. You've got an idea what's going on. Because I know a lot of people that, there it is. Oh, and it's got stickers on it as well. Even better.
It's a brand new one, so got new stickers.
Yeah, I know a few people like that. They just can't shift into the digital mindset. They much prefer the tangible feel of a Post-it or a book or a moleskin or something. And I'm not in between. I can see the benefits of having like a digital outline. Like I plan my day in an outline document. And it's literally every morning, right, what are my things to do in the task list? I can make my notes in there. I can search and index this stuff so I can find it later easily. But occasionally I'll just whip out my moleskin and go, I need to doodle this bad boy out. I need to mind map it or brainstorm some stuff first.
That was the thing for me as well, the planning of it as well. The fact that you have to sort of physically go through the process of moving stuff from the previous day or the previous week. Like Juan was saying, like it helps you keep track of the things you've not done, but it also really helps you sort of actively plan what you're going to do today, because you automatically look at what you've got left on your task list, and you automatically start thinking, am I going to realistically get this done, or shall I just put it in a to-do list for tomorrow or for when I know I've got more time to tackle something. I wish I could have made it work, because I really enjoyed working with a bullet journal, but like I said, it was just too much effort in the end.
Is there a specific bullet journal methodology, or is it just writing bullets on a bit of paper?
There is a specific methodology, and I won't get into it here, but we'll link it in the notes. But there is a website for it, and there's just you've got different symbols to use to denote the meaning of each task, and like if you're going to move it back into the main list or forward to the next day, and that kind of stuff. And I was going to say, so at the end of each day, I sort of go through my bullet journal, and then the stuff I didn't get to, then I move it to the next day. And so first thing in the morning, I look at my bullet journal and I know what I need to work on. And the actual sort of the effort of having to move stuff from one day to the other that you didn't get round to, eventually you look at it and you think, okay, I've been ignoring this task now for 5 days. I think I have to move this one and get it done. Either get it done or move it back to the monthly list and then go from there.
Just looking at the website that Sam's just shared.
Yeah, the website's changed a bit. It's more.
Oh, I see.
It's fairly straightforward. Like I said, it can get really complex, but if you stick to just like the bullet list kind of method, I found that really useful. Just because it just allows you to keep on top of everything that you've got going on.
Yeah, it can get quite deep, but like Sam, I don't use the calendar feature of it. It's mainly just to start a new month, put a list of all the things that I need to do for that month, and then each day I put in what I need to do for that day, and then always referring to that month list to sort of keep an eye on the stuff I have to get done, and then bringing it into the day that I want to work on it.
This is a complete tangent. I was listening to a podcast the other day, but there was a woman on there who, at the start of a year, will outline everything she wants to do that year, and then she will break it down by months. And then, as it goes through the year, it will get broken down into weeks and then into days. Ooh. And then so it's like, does that week help her reach her like year goal? And it just who can plan a year ahead? But I just could. I can barely do a week. We do it as a rolling week at work, and I struggle with that because I can't tell you what I want to achieve next month. It's just ridiculous.
So, Mike, how do you plan and prioritize your projects?
I don't.
There it is.
That's it. I think it's because I am a bit of a sort of scatter. I mean, it's probably a chicken and egg thing. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain when it comes to my side projects. And I think because we plan so much at work, that I just want to wander, I just want to go in a direction that my side projects take me. I use uncommitted Git modifications to remind myself what I was doing the previous day. So I'll just leave files just dirty in the Git repository, which is horrific, bad practice. I also tend to use my, as previously discussed, cone of completion. So I'll just set myself a goal, like, setting up the CSS files and making sure Webpack's working correctly. And like every moment I get to work on my side projects will just be towards that one goal. So, and I won't think of the next one until that first one's completed. So yeah, I don't track my side projects. I've tried using GitLab issues and I just kind of forget about them. I've tried using Trello. I found a Trello board the other day that I hadn't looked at since like 2017, and it had like a couple of to-dos on for a project that doesn't even exist anymore. I've tried using TickTick, which I use at work, but I tried using it for my personal stuff and that didn't work. So yeah, there's a lot of things I've tried, but I just can't get it to stick. I tried using a bit of paper, but because I use my laptop for side projects, and my laptop wanders all around the house, and then it's suddenly like, oh, I need to write that. Oh, I can't. I don't have my journal with me. So yeah, I've just stuck to using the old faithful Mind.
Nice. So I think we've all shared our thoughts now, and Mike's probably learnt a few tricks in the process. Actually, it sounds like, but plenty to chew over there. I think that's it for this week, isn't it? So should we go around the houses, do our socials so people can get hold of each other?
I'm at Mike Streety on everything that's worth being on.
Oh, very nice. Sam?
Yeah, so my web/personal Twitter account is at NocturneTheMonkey, and my art account is at SkinnyDrawnBoy.
Awesome. And Juan?
I'm at Juan Fernandes, pretty much everywhere. So that's me.
That's with an S at the end, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Just to make sure. Awesome. Yeah, we'll get all them in the show notes. And for anyone who wants to follow along with all the Make Life Work stuff, you can do at Make Life Work Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We've got the email, hello@makelifeworkpodcast.com. All the show notes and archives are on makelifeworkpodcast.com, the website. And we've also got our On The Side Slack community we are all part of. Just hop on over to ontheside.network. And if you are listening in those podcast apps, give us a little like, review, star, whatever you can find in there, and it will give us a bit of credit. One final thing just to add to this show, actually, we have managed to wangle 50 free TickTick Premium codes, so you can get the first month for free. That gives you all the add-ons with all the tracking, all the extra charts, projects, and extra bits like that. I'm a fan. I think the other guys have used it in different ways, so if you want to give that a go, we'll put the details in the show notes. Just if you want to get that code, follow us and message us with an @reply, whatever, however you want to get hold of us, and we'll send that code over to you. And hopefully it will help you get your side projects all organised in all the different ways that we've just mentioned as well. Any final thoughts from anyone?
Not really, no.
The silence of awkwardness. Excellent. Well, that's all. I want to say bye, and I'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Au revoir.